Hello and welcome to Pop Culture, the podcast. I'm Troy. This is Dex. We talk about everything geeky, films, comics, TV, games, whatever you can think of. We'll have something to talk about in this sort of thing. But as you can probably guess from everything that's behind me and what I'm wearing, if you're watching, we are talking Daredevil because we have finally had the Daredevil Born Again trailer. And I've got to say, firstly, I think this might be the shortest amount of time from a trailer to a release we have had.
Really good point. Usually they tease it at least, ages before the actual thing releases. This is like what, 2 months? It's less than 2 months until the actual show
Yeah,
comes out on the 4th of March, right? In fairness, we've seen that, well, bits of that trailer before, haven't we? Because there was a leak at, what was it, New York Comic Con, I want to say, or San Diego, one of the big ones.
23 was one of them.
Yeah.
And then I
Okay.
think there was a small snippet came out of NYCC.
That's yeah, NYCC and New York Comic Con, cool. And it basically showed some of the clips that we saw in this final one, but obviously this one is obviously trailer quality, and it has just so much more. And we're gonna break it down and talk Daredevil today. So, I mean, before we jump into it, I want to kind of ask because I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't finish the last bits of the Netflix Daredevil series. So if anyone is like that listening, how does it end, Troy? How did Daredevil, the Netflix series, leave us off? Because this is a direct continuation of.
So it ends with a final battle between Poindexter, Bullseye, Matt, and Fisk. There's a final confrontation. Poindexter gets his back broken by Fisk. It's thrown against a wall, like a corner, and snaps in half pretty much. And then it's a final battle between Matt and Fisk, and you think it's the where Matt's sort of like, "Am I gonna cross the line? Am I gonna finish this guy off?" And he's literally pummeling him on the floor. Lets out a primal rage scream, and it's one of the, in my opinion, now it's MCU, and I can say it, probably one of the best fights in the MCU because of the emotion in it. He beats Fisk. Fisk obviously knows that Matt is Daredevil and says pretty much like, if you ever out me or anything, I will take down Vanessa and release everything she's done as well, his wife, and I want to watch you rot in a cell for the rest of your life. Police come in, find that Dex was dressed as Daredevil, so it was a fake, and then they just see Matt in the black rags walking off in the background, and they're like, no, that's the real guy right there. So we close off with Fisk in prison again. Matt is back with Foggy and Karen, and it's now Nelson, Murdoch, and Page. So that's the name of the law firm. And we see a final snippet of Deck being healed. So they are putting like metal in his back to attach his spine back together. And they zoom in on the eye, and you see like a little bullseye shape in his eye, sort of alluding to the fact that, yeah, Bullseye is still around and still a problem. And they had wrote season 4. They had it, and it was all done, all written. Charlie Cox thought he was doing it and everything, and then just got a call one day saying, "We're done."
Savage,
Literally.
brutal. Yeah. But I mean, the tone of the Netflix shows I thought it was really great, obviously. Like in my mind, really captured the like essence of Daredevil and all of the street level heroes of the Defenders. Like it felt very gritty and grounded and realistic. The fights, as you've exactly just described, for example, are brutal, and the stakes feel a lot more personal and real. Like Matt is fighting for his humanity at that point, by the sounds of it. He's like, if I kill Fisk, do I lose everything that I've stood for this entire time of me being Daredevil? And obviously, like they have way more to lose on a personal level because of their secret identities. Doctor Strange can do this cool suit up during a wedding and jump off a balcony, and no one gives a shit because everyone knows it's Doctor Strange. But Matt Murdock has this very separate life, doesn't he? He has a lot to lose. Um, so yeah, that is really, and you have an exceptional memory. Like I don't know if you watched it again recently, but the fact you
I've watched
remembered
this
all that,
series so many times. Um,
fair enough.
And the whole thing, like from Daredevil, Jessica, Punisher, Iron Fist, I've watched all of it numerous times because I loved it. For me, I've always seen it as MCU. Like I've always just took it as it's in there because in like the first series they do mention things. There is a newspaper article with the destruction of Harlem, which was from the first Hulk movie.
Hmm.
And from the Abomination, there's like a shadowy picture of the Hulk in this newspaper article. So it's like alluding to that. They mentioned the incident. The incident was the first Avengers film where the portals opened up and half of New York got pretty much destroyed.
Hmm.
So for me, it's always been in there. They've just not mentioned it much, but now we can actually say like he's in there.
It's confirmed. Yeah, this is canon. All of the Netflix shows are canon, and as we
Mm.
said, this is a direct continuation of it. And from the trailer, like I'm obviously very excited about the trailer, about the show coming out now. It goes without saying, are extremely excited. Like, but there's some gaps I think we have to fill in before we get into the trailer, right? Because first thing we see is Matt and Fisk sitting down at a diner. Actually, I really like one of the lines that Fisk says is, "It's not entirely unpleasant to see you again."
Love that.
Because it's like an audience's reaction as well. We're like, yes, it's great to see Daredevil again, right? It's a little bit of a, in my mind, like a meta wink
Mm.
nod to the viewers. But then Matt alludes to the fact that Fisk is now mayor, and this obviously happened off screen. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing in the MCU that visibly shows Fisk becoming the mayor of New York. I think there maybe a mention in Echo, or maybe it happened after Echo. That scene was so the diner scene, I mean specifically, is just laced with this like subtext of these two dudes who like absolutely hate each other's guts being so like polite and so, professional in this public setting. I really enjoyed that part so far, so just that part I was like, oh, I'm in this. I'm already invested in this, right?
Yeah, and like one of the things you don't realize until someone actually says it. Now they are in the MCU.
Hmm.
Fisk is the longest running villain. Like Loki changed. Loki is a hero now. Fisk has never changed. He's been in the MCU then 10 years.
My God, that's a really interesting point. And I guess you're
It's
not
the
counting. Well, oh, yeah, it's true because Thanos was first appeared in Avengers, but then obviously finished in Endgame, which was 7 years between his debut and then his like defeat. So yeah, holy crap, that's really
the
interesting.
longest running feud we've had.
Yeah,
Because usually in the MCU, it's like a running thing that they bring a villain in for a movie and the villain is gone. Fisk has just stayed around.
yeah,
He doesn't
that's
seem
a
to
very good point.
disappear.
Yeah. And like again in the public eye, it clearly isn't he's not seen as this villain, otherwise he wouldn't be mayor of New York, right? And I think that's a whole nother interesting level. But I mean, as a side note, I do think it's a shame that the MCU killed off so many good villains so soon. Like, just to name a few, I'm talking Hela, I'm talking Killmonger, I'm talking, Wen Wu, Shang-Chi's dad, the actual Mandarin. Like, there's so many that was like, I can't believe that's the only appearance of this character,
I mean,
you
these
know?
ones for me,
But
like that they killed off that were not portrayed right, and then we're never going to potentially see the proper portrayal, like Gore.
yeah,
The Gore in the comics is fantastic, but we never saw the proper portrayal of him, which
yeah,
I think for me, Vincent D'Onofrio nails Fisk.
yes,
Absolutely nails it.
yeah,
There's
perfect
nothing I
casting.
can fault with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Just obviously the acting is incredible, but like the physicality as well. He's imposing, and part of that is just how he carries himself, as the role. It's fantastic. So yeah, cool. So we have the diner scene. Then it's I think intercut with some again the shots of Fisk being mayor of New York, and then shots of Daredevil in the costume, right? And we see a bit of Daredevil's mask with the horn broken as it kind of like plummets into what looks to be Times Square or some sort of other similar busy intersection. Is that featured in a previous Netflix show?
Well, that's new, and I've got a theory about this. If I'm allowed to
Okay.
go into
Yeah.
potential, not not potential spoilers, because we don't actually know. This is just my theory. A lot of the promo we've seen and everything have not featured Foggy and Karen much at all.
Yep.
And then we obviously get a line from Matt saying he went over the line or something like that. Like he stopped being a vigilante. He's not Daredevil at the minute by this looks things or something. He stopped
Mhm.
being it because he went over the line. I think Bullseye has killed one of them or both of them.
Foggy and
The
Karen, you
Horn has
mean?
been, yeah. I think because it's a new series, it's sort of like, although it's a continuation, it is a bit of a reset point. I think the Horn's been taken off by Bullseye because that, if you pause it, that cut on the helmet, the Horn is clean. It's not broken off. It's sliced off. There's only something that can do that is either someone sliced it with a sword or something or thrown something at it. I think if Bullseye's thrown something at it, and I think Matt kills Bullseye. I think that's the thing that tips it over. I think that's what he's on about. I think Bullseye dies.
So I wonder then if that diner scene is the first thing we see, or if we're going to see, if your theory plays out, if we're going to see any of the, in the first few episodes, maybe that play between Daredevil and Bullseye, maybe to catch up the audience to what's been happening, and then it suddenly time jumps. I don't know, but we definitely see Bullseye in the trailer, though, don't we?
Hmm.
And he's very much alive. You know, scar on his face, in the jumpsuit, getting escorted in the prison bus. So you reckon that's maybe a flashback or something like an early episode, and then he's killed off?
Think so, or something like that. I don't think Karen or Foggy or something are going to make it through this. I just think it's going to be a bit of a shock and like a reset. And as I say, they've not really been in any of the promotional stuff. They did D23, and then both of them have just disappeared in any of the interviews. It's just been Vincent and Charlie. These
Hmm.
are your main two. Like in the Netflix, it was like they were main characters and they were in all the interviews and everything. They're nowhere to be seen.
That's interesting. There is one shot of them that I can recall from the trailer, and that they're crossing a street or something with Matt, and they're on either side of them. It looks very, laughy, jokey, like maybe they just had lunch at work or something, and that sort of thing. But then you reckon that maybe that's maybe some of the most we'll ever see of them in the show then.
Think so. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Right. What else from the trailer do you want to pick out at this point then?
I think we need to talk about Muse for sure.
Yes. Yes.
So he's the first thing we actually see. It literally is a snippet of Matt in the suit beating down on him.
Yes. And there's a little tease of Muse as well, where it's an artist is very obviously him in my mind, spray painting this mural onto some bricks of Fisk. It looks to be some sort of political commentary that Fisk is two-faced, because then it pans out a little bit. You see two different like faces of Wilson Fisk, and one of the mural images kind of fades and becomes the actor Vincent D'Onofrio's face as Wilson Fisk in live action, which I found really interesting. But yeah, the villain Muse, genuinely wonder how much he'll play into it, and I genuinely hope that they do the classic MCU thing and kill him off straight away, or like soon in the series, because he is a genuine threat to Daredevil, isn't he?
Hmm. Yeah, he can't sense him. That's one
Yeah.
of the big things about him. Like Matt obviously is blind and uses sense to listen for people, and he can also smell really well. Although his other senses are heightened. That's the whole point. He can't sense him, so how do you fight something you can't sense when you can't see it?
And I'm really interested to see if they will incorporate that, because I mean, as you've said, when you see Matt and Muse interacting, Daredevil and Muse interacting, Daredevil is beating the absolute crap out of Muse.
Hmm.
And that does happen in the comics as well, but Muse is like, despite his frame, is disturbingly tough and extremely skilled at combat. So like again, this is why I'm hoping that they do the character justice, because I mean, as you know, when I was reading the run of Daredevil, which had Muse as the main villain, there were moments of like absolute terror that he's inflicting on the public. Obviously there's these gruesome murals of like bodies and blood, and like he's like trying to display his both political commentary and just like what he believes sheer artistic talent, his masterpieces around New York. And he kidnaps people. He like terrorizes an entire courtroom full of people. And when he and Matt first interact and when they have that fight, Muse is like dodging him left, right, center. He's just like a black void, I think what Matt describes it as in the comics, something like that. As you said, because you can't sense him. So, I mean, for me, I genuinely hope they do have the character be a threat and not just some schmuck on Daredevil's stepping stone to be Daredevil again.
I agree. I think they need to go that. I hope that when we see him obviously being beaten down or something, he takes all that beating, then just gets back up. You
Yeah.
really hope he just does that, takes all the beating, then just gets back up like nothing's happened. I think that would be a great way to show that this guy is not messing around. I've got a feeling that Muse is going to be, I think, the main villain of this series, and then I think it's going to be a bit of a, not a Thanos situation because that was a bit different. Like he was only trickled in at the end, but I feel as though Fisk's is going to be an overarching thing that he's going to be in the background doing things, and there's going to be interactions between the two of them, but he's not going to come to a head. I think they need to build up to that, the big confrontation between them two, rather than just doing it in 9 episodes and one series, tease it, and then slowly get.
Interesting. I hope so too. That would be far more like compelling to watch.
Mm.
And especially with Fisk in such a public role, and Matt knows he's evil. It's not like he can just kill the mayor or like, he has the entire system against him basically. If the evil guy is the guy in charge of the whole city, of the whole town. You even have Coke, which is red. It's just so thematic.
I didn't even notice that.
I genuinely thought you did that on purpose. You just took a sip of your Coke just then. Brilliant. But yeah, so go back to the comics run with Muse, because Muse's like terrorism that it's terrorism after all that he spreads throughout New York is like fuel for Fisk basically to be like, well, I'm the one who can stop this. You don't need vigilantes, you need me. I'm your guy, basically. Do you think that'll
Yeah.
come into play
See,
here?
I think the way I'm taking it is obviously we've seen off screen that he potentially has gone for the mayor. This is just my head canon. After Echo, we obviously see that he's thinking about it. I'm wondering if during the snap, Fisk was someone that tried to keep control of the city and was seen as someone who was maintaining control from gangs and stuff a little bit. And that's where his popularity came from and the chance that the public might vote for him. Because obviously in Echo, we see that he has got Fisk. It's either Enterprises or Industries or something like that, but there is the company Fisk. So it's a known company. Maybe he was supplying jobs to people during the snap and stuff like that, and he's got the public on his side.
But I mean, it makes sense. And actually, you made me just go, did Fisk survive the snap? Huh.
We don't know. We
Right.
don't know.
Yeah. Did any of them? I mean, did Daredevil? Did fucking Karen? Who knows? Maybe they'll address it.
No
Maybe they
idea.
won't.
I've always had a thing that I would love to see Matt's perspective of the snap because it would be a totally different perspective. Because rather than seeing people turn to ash, he would just hear the heartbeats start disappearing,
Oh, yeah. That's
which would be
cool.
quite creepy.
He'd just be like, what the hell is happening? You know,
Yeah,
he just would stop sensing people. They would just be disappearing off his radar. And he's just like, what?
yeah,
That's
definitely.
freaky.
Yeah. There's more bits that I've seen online and stuff like that, but that's going into a little bit too much spoiler territory, so I don't want to really
Okay.
mention that because it's not something we've seen in the trailer. It might be a bit like you're revealing too much a little bit. But one of the things we see on Muse's wall, which has been painted, leads us into the next person, the Punisher.
Yes,
So on
definitely.
Muse's wall, we do see a picture and painted of the skull of the Punisher. So in some aspect, he's involved with the Muse situation as well.
That's interesting. And yeah, Muse being so obsessed with his art and everything he paints, obviously is sending a message. He's very well aware of Daredevil, very well aware of Fisk, and also very well aware of the Punisher, clearly. And I wonder how, what his motivation is, I guess, for wanting to make a statement about someone like the Punisher. Maybe it's like goading him, and it's like, hey, you vigilantes, you think you're. He literally says something like this in the comics. He's like, you play your little games, your punch, punch, kick, kick games, but at the end of the day, what does matter? Like, it's all pointless. It's stupid. um, so maybe he's actively goading the Punisher. And I mean, I read a theory as well. It was just on some Facebook thread of the trailer that someone had like commented their theory around the Punisher, Muse, and actually White Tiger as well. So I mean, we could cut this part out if what I'm about to say is you think is genuinely spoilery. But what I read was that someone was like, "Oh, it's interesting that White Tiger and Muse look so similar in terms of their costume," which I firstly don't necessarily agree with. I think they're very distinctive. But
Yeah,
then
very
someone
different.
commented and was like, yeah, exactly. But then someone commented with like, my theory is Punisher goes after White Tiger thinking he's Muse and kills him, and that's why then the Punisher's on the run because White Tiger is this figure who actually is a good person and tries his best and is probably known in his community. But then that's why we see Punisher all disheveled and beardy and desperate because he's presumably on the run for accidentally killing the wrong person. And so maybe that Muse painting that skull is like a tie-in to like, you fucked up, Punisher. This is me. Come get me, sort of thing. So I don't know. Is that too
Yeah,
spoilery?
could
It's
be.
just a fan
No,
theory.
no, I don't think so. I think it's just a theory again that people are coming out with. So I don't think so. The White Tiger is an interesting one because they have started with the lesser known White Tiger. Now,
Mm.
I'm not going to go into the names because I'll butcher them because of the heritage of the character. And my history and knowledge of the White Tiger is not that extensive. It's not massively. But from what I can gather, I think his name is Hector. I can't remember his second name, is the White Tiger at this point. And you see a totem on his chest, like an amulet or whatever you want to call it, which gives him abilities. I believe the more well-known one, I think it is his niece. So she's been in a it was Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, I believe. I for the life of me can't remember her name. I think it may be Ava, but I'm not sure. She is the more well-known one in the comics, so the totem gets passed down through the generations of their family. So she at some point will probably become the White Tiger, and I think it'd be one of those that like leads into she might be a young Avenger or a champion or something like that, like Ms. Marvel sort of thing. But I like that they're starting with the uncle, Hector. We've seen little snippets. I think he's the guy that's fighting in the subway that throws someone in front of a train.
Right.
I
Interesting.
think that's him out of costume. So again, he's going to be brutal and looks like he isn't afraid to kill. Just he's another one who's just going to go out there and kill you if you're a problem.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about the White Tiger kind of lineage, I guess, that they pass it on. And if you have the theory that, the niece is going to be a prominent figure, that means it has to get passed on, right? Which means this White Tiger Hector might have to retire or be retired, if you catch my drift.
Mm,
So that's really fascinating. And it seems like Matt is surrounded by all these like heroes who will just kill anyone. Punisher, White Tiger. Like if your theory is correct, he's just the only one just like, come on, guys. Can we just
yeah,
send him to jail, please?
yeah. I mean, that's one of the big things of him is his faith, isn't it? He's a Catholic. He prays to God and stuff like that, and that is one of the big aspects of the character, and that he will not kill. He uses fear very much like Batman, the more well-known character, uses fear, and they do have that similarity in them, but he won't go over the edge. He will break bones, which we see in the trailer, but he won't go over that line.
Right. And that, I mean, that is brutal aspect of the trailer. It's just so unflinchingly like violent. He like snaps the dude's arm and you can see it bend the wrong way. You hear the crunch and you see the blood go through the freaking cloth of
Yeah.
his shirt. And there's another scene where there's a gang of, I assume, criminals who are all wearing different colored balaclavas. Like there's a red one, a yellow one.
Mm.
One of them like it jumps on a dude's legs and it like breaks the other way. It's like the
You think
shortest
that's
scene.
Matt?
Oh, do you reckon? Okay.
Yeah, because obviously, again, identity. I think he's beaten one of them up and took the mask.
Ha ha ha.
I think that's Matt. I do think that's Matt actually fighting someone in an alleyway just with the mask that he's stolen from one of them.
That's interesting because he may have just run into some trouble and was like, "Oh crap, I gotta stop this," but I can't do it while I'm
Yeah,
at Murdoch.
exactly.
So wait, do you know have any idea about who these masked dudes are?
Having a clue
Okay,
on them? No,
okay.
I don't know if they're just generic bank robbers or something. I literally no idea on that one at all. There's no real
Mm,
clues. I didn't see any clues. No, not sure on that. But I think again, it's Matt has done it sometimes where he's not had the suit and stuff like that and had to be violent but in his work uniform. So I think, yeah, I think it might just be a scene like that potentially. I might be totally wrong. We might get there and they might be a named group, but at the minute it just looks to me like another encounter that Matt has.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I didn't know. You know how, like in Falcon and I can't speak today. You know how in Falcon and Winter Soldier they introduced the Flag Smashers, which is an existing
Mm,
group from the comics, but like a lesser known one. I wonder if I didn't know if they did a similar thing here with that. So maybe they did, as you say. Maybe they didn't. We'll see.
yeah, it could be. We don't know.
Yeah. Fair. And you mentioned already one of the very prominent characters, a character everyone loves, from the Netflix series is with good reason John Bernthal as the Punisher. And the first we see of him, he's attacking Matt. And Matt says, Frank, hang on. What's that about, do you reckon?
I don't really know the reason why he's attacking Matt. And they never really said it. I think Frank does know that Matt is the Punisher. Matt is Daredevil, sorry.
Yeah.
I believe there's a little snippet when in the courtroom they've met before on the roof and he's called him Frank while in the suit.
Hmm.
And then in the courtroom, I think the line is literally, Frank, may I call you Frank? And you can see him just like, yeah. And it's a little bit of a, I've heard that voice before.
Right. Punisher's not dumb. He's definitely not dumb.
No. So I think under it, Frank does know that Matt is actually Daredevil. Um,
Interesting.
again, it's never said how or if he does. Do you know where Frank left off at the end of the series, or is that another one you're not
No,
too
actually.
sure on?
Okay. So the Punisher series I think is one of the best superhero TV shows ever. It is again just like brutally unflinching, but very compelling. But like I genuinely can't remember how it ended.
It literally Frank is on the streets again, taking down gangs, and he's done a setup where two gangs think that either one has contacted the other, and they're like, "You called us? No, no, you called us." And he walks in, it's like, "No, I called you." And pulls out two assault rifles and just mows them all down in the iconic black trench coat. And
Yes.
that's the last we saw of him. So obviously his
Right.
war on crime continued. That's what he's been doing by the looks of things.
Right.
I don't know if you saw the little fact that I put on the podcast story the other day that one of the actors in The Punisher is in the Fantastic Four.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
who's
the
that?
guy who plays Micro in there with the beard and the shaggy hair is Ben Grimm, the Thing, Zeb Moss Bacharach.
No way. That's cool.
So, little snippet there that
That's
they have brought
nice.
someone back again, but in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, the MCU has done that only a couple other times, I think. The only one I can think of is Gemma Chan, who was in Eternals and in, oh my God, and in
In
Captain
Marvel.
Marvel. Yes. Yeah.
There is another one from the Netflix series. I cannot for the life of me remember her name. She is in Luke Cage. She is the villain in the first season. She is the Coppermouth. Is it Coppermouth or Cottonmouth? I can't remember his name
Cottonmouth.
exactly. It's
Cottonmouth,
either his
yeah.
sister or something like that. She has a very small role in Civil War, and it's
Huh.
the woman who talks to Tony who says,
Well,
"My son was in Sokovia. You killed my son," sort of thing. You dropped a
right.
rock on his head, stuff like that. She's in that, so she's got a very small role. It's not the same character, that has been said. It's not the same character. She just got two roles in two Marvel projects.
Ah, yeah, now that you mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember her. Um, cool. Well, I mean, if the Punisher has been continuing his war on crime, something's not gone right for the guy because he doesn't look well, as we already said. Yeah, he's disheveled, his beard and hair are crazy. I wonder why he's looking for Matt, or if he was looking for Matt at all and just jumped a person who just happened to be there and it happened to be Matt. I don't know. But presumably then Punisher will feature quite heavily in this. Do you rule out any other cameos now that they're properly MCU? Marvel loves to do a little bit of a cheeky cameo or a lead into something else.
I don't think there's going to be any big ones, but Charlie has teased something. I can't remember what he calls it. He doesn't call it cameos, he calls it collision.
Ha.
Like two properties colliding together. So someone did ask him this, and I do think he said that there's no real big ones. There is some in there that connect the two. I already know one from something else and little bits and that and the casting stuff. So there's this very small crossover in one of them.
Okay.
Um,
Do you want to share
I
it or is
won't
it too
say
spoilery? You won't say it. Okay,
it's
fair.
a little bit spoiler, so I won't
Okay,
bother
okay.
saying. They might not actually like straight up say who he is. You might have to figure it out a little bit. He's been in a TV show and a movie. Not a big character, but it's a little bit of a crossover.
In the MCU. Interesting. TV show and movie, and he's a small character. Okay. I'll have to think. I'll have to think.
So I don't think we're gonna get anything massive,
Okay.
but I'm hoping in the future, yeah, we might get something a little bit
Okay.
more. If this series definitely goes well, which I'm judging by everything online, it looks like everyone's very happy with it, the trailer and everything. I think in season two we might see a little bit more of that. A
Okay.
little bit more.
Right. A little bit more crossover, I guess, or
Mm.
collisions, maybe. See, it's interesting actually because you mentioned a collision, which is implying like a wider MCU, crossover or something like that. I was thinking even something as small as like they mentioned Jessica by name, or Danny is like seen for a sec, or Luke is like talking with Matt.
I still think Jessica's in it.
Interesting. So you
I
think she's
think
probably
Jessica's
like,
in it.
okay, right.
I think she is in it. The Kristen Ritter has been teasing so much stuff online of this character that she loves playing it. She posted a picture of a t-shirt, and it was the first t-shirt we ever saw Jessica wear when she popped up.
Yeah.
There's been so many little teasers from her, from Kristen, that she might be back. Um, Someone has found it. I didn't notice this at first, but in Times Square, which I want to go to in a minute, we see a billboard and it says Harlem's Paradise, which is the bar and the club that Luke Cage runs at the end of season two.
Right. I wonder. I mean, let's talk about it now. Were there any other Easter eggs in Times Square specifically, or what is it specifically you want to mention about Times Square? What's going on?
Well, for the little snippets is there is Rogers the musical. That is still going
Okay.
on in there. You see Rogers the musical, and then it says Happy New Year from Van Dyne and Pym Corporation, or where it
Aha.
is. So
Yes.
we've got a Lampman thing in there as well. The thing with the Times Square was it's not so much what's going on or anything like that. It's more that for me that was the first thing that shows right, okay, this is going big in scale. Like we never saw any shots like that in the Netflix shows. There was never even that many
Huh.
people on screen at the same time ever.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
now we are seeing Times Square full of people. This is
Interesting.
going big, in my opinion. Obviously, like, it's no longer just Hell's Kitchen. Fisk is now New York.
That's a really interesting, yeah, to put that kind of scale front and center for the audience to say, this is what's at stake. These are all the people now under Wilson Fisk's rule, his power. That's really interesting. That's really good.
Mm.
I'd never thought. Yeah, the Netflix show has very few crowds, shall we say, of note. So,
Mm.
yeah.
There's little
Okay.
bits where there are Fisk's at like a ball or something like that, and obviously there's groups of people, but that's thousands of people that this is now going to affect rather than small gangs and stuff like that. This is going a lot bigger. And I think another thing that the trailer did, we went on the fighting. I think they did that, and then at the end they did like a montage of him beating people up. I think that was a bit of a thing of like, let's show you, we haven't toned this down because we're Disney. This
Mhm.
is the same of this is what you wanted. We are not toning this down. This is what you want. Because obviously, like She-Hulk, for me, it was nice to see him, and I get why they went with that style and that interpretation of the character, like sort of thing. But it was a bit disappointing for me because of knowing what the character is actually like from his series. It was quite a, is it juxtaposition? That's the word, something like
Yeah,
that.
when you put two opposing things right next to each other, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, the She-Hulk version is incredibly different to the Netflix version.
Mhm.
It's a bit more jokey, more fun. Like the Netflix version, you would have never seen him doing the walk of shame in the morning in his suit. So,
I take She-Hulk in general as like a show from her perspective. So like maybe it didn't happen exactly that way in reality, but like for comedic
mm,
effect, this is how she's playing it out in her head and that sort of thing, which is how I kind of like accepted some of those, as you say, kind of like uncharacteristic aspects of certain players, like Daredevil maybe. But
mm,
yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. Like to have Disney kind of blatantly show, yeah, we're just as dark, we're just as gritty, I think is a really good move on their part.
yeah. I think they've nailed this. I think they nailed it. I've not seen one bad thing online about this trailer or anything. I've seen a couple of bits where they've been like, people have took pictures of it and put it against an episode. Oh, look at the downgrade in the quality and the cinematography. I'm like, what are you looking at? Like
Yeah,
they've put, oh yeah, it's too grey rather than the colours and stuff like that. I'm like, have you watched this trailer? Like, there's a scene where it's like Fisk is on a building and the whole city in front of him is like lit up blue. It looks phenomenal. Like
I think it looks great.
it looks fantastic. It looks like dingy New York again. It looks like we've
Yeah.
gone back into the, how I've always said it is the underbelly of New York rather than like the swinging through the skyscrapers that Tom Holland does and stuff like that. We've gone into the thing that everyone doesn't see where they don't want to see.
Yes. Yeah. Where the forgotten and the like the dregs of society live, but they still need
Mm,
protection. You know, there's
yeah.
still, just by circumstance, I think, in that situation. I want to mention something real quick, actually, because you earlier, when talking about the Netflix series, said when Matt was beating on Fisk, he lets out this like primal scream, this raw, like emotional release. And he does a similar thing in this trailer. And it makes me think that when he does it is presumably when he's fighting Muse. And maybe this is the only time he's actually had the upper hand, and maybe that's the final fight we actually see between Matt and Muse. That's my theory anyway. Because if the thing, if the final fight in the Netflix series was with Fisk and he had Fisk down and he lets out this emotional scream, maybe it's that similar sort of callback, and that's how we're going to end this villain's arc for now, with Muse finally being defeated. Maybe Daredevil beating on him. This is, as I said, this is the only time he actually gets the upper hand because Muse has been so void-like, and then lets out the scream. So I don't know. Maybe that's how it ends. Actually, I mean that his arc.
Mm, could be. Like, I, at some point, I really like the fact that, as I say, the underground and stuff like that. I really like the fact that a lot of these fights are going on and people don't know about them. But obviously in the MCU, there's quite a lot of fights that people do, like the Avengers. They knew about that. Thor, the big fight in London, stuff like that. The Washington DC event with Captain America. I do kind of want to at some point when they get to like the big Fisk Daredevil fight. I know I like the emotional fight of just them two, but I kind of want to see a fight with him in front of the public and quite large scale sort of thing
Mm,
to show that he is a hero for the public and stuff like that. Like the one I always go to for that sort of thing is totally it's not in the MCU is Andrew Garfield fighting Times Square with Electro.
yes.
Kind of want to see something like that with
Yeah.
Daredevil a little bit.
Mm,
Like that he is there. I still think you should at the end of it go with Fisk and him just one on one. Not this series, obviously, like, but when we get to it. But I do want to see that big, large scale fight in front of New York with him.
yeah. Yeah. I find the fight scenes in the comics between Fisk and Daredevil way more interesting than any of the fights from like cosmic level heroes, for example. Partly because, I guess, similar to the other MCU media, when you have those big, large scale fights, it feels like, sorry, the big, like flashy, cinematic in film fights, it does feel like a bit of a roller coaster ride. You know exactly what you're in for. It's going to be a fun trip, and at the end, everything's going to be okay. But the way that fights are handled in the comics between Daredevil and Fisk, or Daredevil and most of his enemies, if it's a much bumpier ride. It's not a smooth roller coaster. It's this like off-road crazy experience where you don't know how badly Daredevil's going to get hurt, right? Captain America can shrug it off. Daredevil cannot. And to call back to the Netflix series, that's one of the first things we see when he first like suits up in the black suit. Night Nurse has to physically like piece him together in places because he's just a guy. Yeah, senses. Yeah, heightened senses and all that, and combat prowess. But he's just a dude. And
Mm,
yeah, I'm really glad they're exploring more of that, and I hope what we see reflects that aspect of him in the comics and what we've previously seen.
yeah, I mean the fighting as well. Like in especially in the Netflix shows, we've seen that Matt doesn't just take down people with one punch. It does take a little bit. I mean, I think looking at what we did see in She-Hulk and in Echo, he has been powered up a little bit, if you get what I mean. Like, he's not got more powers, but he's going to be a little bit more formidable in terms of
Mm,
maybe be able to take a fair few more people than just a couple of goons at a time.
right.
Because a lot of them he hits and they get back up. Even that hallway scene, it takes quite a few hits to get the people to just stay down.
Yeah.
I think if you looked at the version now, if you went to that first hallway scene, I don't think it'd be a problem. I think it's going to be change.
This is a born again Daredevil, one who has
Mm.
experience under his belt. So cool. I mean, let's see. Is there anything else from the trailer that we want to pick out specifically for this discussion right now?
I think one of the things we've spoke about like before, like just on the costumes wise, Muse's costume with being a canvas, I think is really cool.
So clever. And
And if you
having looked at
pause it, you
now,
can see it like stitched together in
yes,
places and like little bits, and
yes,
it's
and
not a
I
one
love
piece.
it. Yes, so the texture on it looks so like stiff and it's perfect. And as you say, it's made of artist canvas, which is just deranged. It's perfect for the character. Like on one of the high res stills, there's like staples where the hood part of the canvas attaches to the rest of it. And presumably the red that runs down is indeed blood. And in the comics, his eyes are this like again back to the void thing. His eyes are this like deep pit of like black and red like swirling mass. But in this, he looks decidedly human. Like and this is one aspect of the character I do hope that they adapt or change rather do want him to be more human and less supernatural. That there's just something about him, maybe, that Daredevil can't sense without being a full on weird supernatural entity like he is a bit in the in the comics. Like they remove his mask in the comics, and he's this like weird, shriveled looking. He almost looks mummified, but his eyes are like black pits. It's I mean it's quite disturbing, but I just don't think it would work in a TV show, you know.
I
So
mean,
yeah, I'm
I
hoping
think
it's
it's alluded
a
to the
dude.
fact he's actually an Inhuman in the
Right.
comics.
Okay.
I think that's what he is. He is really an Inhuman. I mean, obviously, I think it's been a while since I've read that run. I do want to go back and read it again. I think they take his DNA and he doesn't pop up as anyone and stuff like that, and he literally has no identity and stuff like that.
Yes, and they take him to that special prison for I can't remember what it's called. It's not the Raft. It's like undersea, and it's for like
Yeah, yeah, I can't remember. There's so many prisons in the MCU. Just in Marvel in general, I mean, the big house. There's other ones that, oh yeah.
hmm Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting if he is Inhuman, because again, like if they do incorporate a bit of that into the MCU, then was like, well, Inhumans are confirmed to be then part of the MCU, right?
Yeah,
So there's a whole lot of little references that they're suddenly going, oh yeah, this is canon now. So if that is the case, so but yeah, I as you say, I really like Muse's design. It does make me want to kind of redo my Muse cosplay, except I have no idea. I could take artist canvas. I used to paint as well. It's a funny thing. Obviously not with blood. Didn't kill anyone. But like to take like artist canvas is so like stiff and like I don't know
yeah,
how they manage the costume designers managed to like mold it even close to being his face and drape it in such a way. You know, it's interesting.
yeah. I love the costumes. Obviously, I love the Daredevil suit. I've loved all of them except She-Hulk's. I just didn't think the colors worked. I get why they did it. Always say that. Get why they did it. For me, it just didn't work.
hmm
But I love that we are slowly going more and more to the comics. And I do feel as though if he does pop up in an Avengers movie or something like that, I feel as though the costume will be more red, like a brighter red, just to fit in with that aspect of bigger scale superhero stuff at the minute. Because a lot of people did think this suit from behind the scenes photo was bright red, but when you see it on display and in the show and everything, a lot of it was lighting. They were
hmm
blasting it with white light, and it was actually like more of a reddy berry color,
Mm.
which for me I prefer because it distinguishes him from Deadpool and Spider-Man, who are already bright red heroes, and he's a character who uses stealth. I don't think he'd want to be bright red. And the comic one isn't bright red. When you actually compare it to like Spider-Man, it's not bright red, although everyone just assumes it is.
It's
It
not.
isn't really. It's been drawn sometimes bright red, but it's not always. It's
Yeah.
more of a darker toned red.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it fits perfectly. The kind of coloration that they've done for the show, his suit obviously fits the tone. I agree with you actually. If they do bring him into an MCU film, I do think it'll be brighter, because those films, again, kind of like what I mentioned earlier, they have a bit of a shine to them, don't they? Like they're
Mm,
very shiny. They're very like, you know, picturesque and colorful and like bright on the senses. And to have Daredevil's muted red in that would be weird. So if they
mm,
ever put him side by side with Spider-Man, I bet their reds would match more than
yeah,
they would if they were in a Netflix show.
yeah. Do you think we'll ever see the logo?
Yes, I think we will.
You do.
I genuinely do think we will. It might be something either at the end of whatever happens in this entire however many seasons they have of Born Again, or it'll be in Daredevil's first appearance in an MCU film, like a proper crossover. And I'm not counting
Mm,
No Way Home, obviously, because he wasn't Daredevil, he was Matt. But like like there might be a tease of like if he appears in a film, you see snippets of the suit, and then it like cuts or like pans over to the Daredevil logo, and then he's there in all his glory, and then the audience is gonna like erupt in the cinemas. So yeah,
the funny thing about that with him, like in No Way Home, I get them mixed up which one's which. Far From Home, No Way
No
Home,
Way
No
Home, the
Way
last
Home.
one, yeah.
I wasn't in a cinema with obviously masses and masses of fans. So like everyone was obviously cheering Green Goblin, Doctor Octopus, and all that. When Matt Murdock walked on screen, I think I was the only person that cheered in the entire screen.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I was at
that
a
Kane
midnight
hit the
showing and
ground, and I
everyone
was
was
like,
like,
yeah,
oh my God, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was the only
The only
one.
person being like, yeah, oh no.
Yeah, no one else got this. Okay.
I thought I thought it was a great cameo. I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah,
It was just perfect lines, and the way he caught the brick, it was just like so daredevil-y.
yeah. Because one of the things people don't realize as well in the comics and that Spider-Man's got the Spider-Man, his spider sense, but Matt's senses are faster than that. So that alluded to the fact in that although Peter was sat like next to him, Matt catches it before Peter because he knows it's coming before Peter.
Right, that's cool. That's really cool. Speaking of them two, there's a fun interaction they have in the comics where they're talking about villains. I think they're talking about Fisk specifically. And I think Daredevil's like, yeah, he's like my longest running villain or something. And Spider-Man goes, wait, no, no, he's mine. He's my villain. He's not yours. And Daredevil's like, well, hang on. You have like all these other ones. Like I don't have anyone. Like at least give me Fisk. And they have like this like little like bickering about like who gets to claim which
Yeah.
villain, which is I think is quite fun.
It's a fantastic trailer. I could just watch it again and again and again. There is one thing. Sorry.
Mm. No, do it. What
The
is it?
theme.
Oh yeah, the theme
It
being
is
played. Yep.
it is the
Yes.
original theme, but they've done it on an organ and it's very much more
Exactly.
gothic and I love it. But it
Yes.
is when you listen to it, it is the Netflix theme.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's just arranged for organ, and I think it's a great kind of call out. And in my mind, it kind of ties in with the title of Born Again, because like organ, you get this like sense of like church and like godliness, and Matt's obviously religious, as you've said, but now he's like, this is a new series. It's Born Again. It is the same but different. I think it's such a great move in terms of the score, in terms of like what it means. Shall we briefly talk about the Born Again comic? Because this, despite having the same title as the Born Again comic, doesn't follow the storyline of that comic at all
No, it doesn't. No,
whatsoever.
no. I
Yeah.
mean, there's people in that comic that we will not see in this.
Mm.
Muse isn't in Born Again,
No.
not at
Yeah.
all. And it's actually like I got the chance to meet Charlie last year, and one of the questions I asked or something like that was about adapting and storylines that he wants to see adapted, and he actually said that they don't adapt them directly; they take elements from them and then adapt. They won't just do Born Again. They won't just do Devil's Reign. They won't just do the exact same thing, so they will adapt and choose and things like that. I mean, Born Again, as I say, there's characters in there we ain't gonna see in this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And if your theory is right, like if Foggy and Karen bite the dust, like they're prominent figures, and they feature prominently in the Born Again storyline in the comics. So yeah, like it'll be very different. I do like that he confirmed that though, that it's not direct adaptations, because with such a rich like tapestry of comic book stories to pick from, to just take one of them, I think would be a disservice to all of the other ones that we would never get to see. So being able to pick like the title of Born Again, which fits perfectly with what they're trying to achieve here in my mind, with like a bit of the story of the Muse run. I don't actually remember what it's called, with, Fisk as mayor, which kind of ties into that as well. It also makes me go, well, I can expect the unexpected, because it's not a direct adaptation, right? So I'm wondering, is Elektra going to be in it? Are the Hand going to appear? There's so many possibilities now because it's not direct adaptation. So I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I think the thing about Fisk being mayor as well, I think we are leading to something like Devil's Reign. I think that's the outcome. And we've said that our other hero is going to pop in. They've alluded to Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, that. I think if you're going to do Devil's Reign, you have to start bringing some of those street level heroes in. Because the whole point is it's the street level heroes versus Fisk and his tyrannical reign that he's got over the whole of New York and people like that. You have to start bringing them in. Obviously, we're not going to get the scale that it was in the comics because it was a full Avengers thing. Captain America was there, and a lot of the heroes are just in the Avengers and stuff were involved. But I think you could still do it with the street level, but they are going to have to start bringing those street level heroes back leading up to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I, as an audience member, and I think the rest of much of the audience would agree with me, I would love to see it, you know, these beloved characters who haven't appeared since. And, you know, even in the comics, when Fisk first takes over as mayor and Matt's desperately trying to take him down as Daredevil, he gathers a group of street level heroes. There's Luke Cage, there's Iron Fist, they're like partnered up, they're like buddy buddy. Spider-Man's involved, Jessica Jones is there, Moon Knight's there, and they're all just like, we know Fisk is bad. What's your plan, Daredevil? And he's like, well, I got this guy, Matt. He's a really good friend of mine, and he reckons we should try this. And it's this coordinated effort behind the scenes to kind of like set Fisk up to take him down. You know, I would love to see even that, yeah, that as you say, the street level heroes coming back into it and having that interplay. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Like, obviously, so excited. Literally,
Yes.
there's just no
Yes.
hiding like my excitement and stuff like that. Like, if people haven't checked it out, I did put my first reaction to the Daredevil trailer on there, and
Yes.
I was very engrossed in it. And I tried to, once I'd finished it, lost my mind a little bit, and then took a couple of minutes, and then went into my little breakdown of it. I didn't want to just lose my mind on camera completely, so I did pause it, watch it again, let myself be very excited, and then okay, camera mode.
Right. Yeah, because that way you're actually taking it in. The first time you're just like, whoa, stuff. But the second time you're actually measured and going, this isn't it. Oh, what's this? Sort of, you know, deal. So I
Yeah.
really liked it, to be fair. So yeah. But I would say that, wouldn't I? So I'm biased, listeners, obviously. We also have, for those of you who follow us on Instagram, we will have some very cool pics coming up of Daredevil and Muse based from our on location shoot this past weekend, or depending when you're listening to this, a few weekends ago. And that was the first time we actually filmed a bit of and recorded a bit of this podcast live, which was very fun.
We did. That the video again, it might be out by the time you listen to this, so
Yes.
please go and check out the Instagram. It was a great day, and we got some awesome Born Again stuff with Simon from the Imagination Emporium was fantastic, and there will be behind the scene video going up very soon, or will be up, as I say.
Love it. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else to talk about for Daredevil for now, because obviously we're going to do episode by episode breakdowns when the series is live in less than 2 months.
Just
Yeah.
give it me now. Bring on
Yeah.
Born Again. Bring it on.
Yes. Right now, it's tell you what. I am in a D&D group chat with one of my D&D groups, obviously, and they said that this is like the first Marvel show they've been excited for in years. You know, so it's great to see some engagement from lapsed fans, you know, coming back into it and getting as hyped as we are. So, you know, as engaged fans. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm literally it's I tell you what, it's the Instagram one that messes me up. Cool, but I will do it. So
Don't cut this because we are still learning this. This is in.
This is just gonna be live, yeah. Cool. Well, I'm just gonna leave this in. This is just us editing. So yes, so if you would like to, very kindly follow us on the socials. We have both, I should say, Instagram and TikTok. Now obviously there's our individual Instagram and TikTok accounts. I am Dexter's Cosplay on both platforms, and Troy is Captain Tempest on both platforms. The podcast actual tags on both of those. TikTok, we are pop.cultured.pod. That is pop.cultured.pod on TikTok. But Instagram, we are podcast pop cultured, all one word, podcast pop cultured. Please give us a follow. Hopefully you like this episode enough to check us out on other stuff.
The devil's work is never done.